Hey team, Aaron here from No BS Marketplace. So I was going to start doing videos actually this week, and I was going to do a completely different video about a new technique we're doing with titles, but seeming that Google decided to give us their lovely update, their core update, I thought it was a good time to talk about that and our first initial thoughts as a business and what I've actually seen in our R&D team and what we're thinking is going to come out of this. I think there's a few key points to keep in mind, and I'm just going to try and keep this brief, right? So the first one is that helpful content is now going to be part of core updates. I actually think this could be a good thing. The reason for that is that I'm hoping that means that sites that have been heavily penalized might be able to actually come back out of that penalty, because I'm yet to see anyone really be able to reverse a full helpful content site-wide penalty. They say that you can fix it within a couple of weeks. There was a conference where Google was speaking to publishers and they did mention that, but I'm still yet to see anyone who's fully been able to recover from that. So it'll be interesting to see as this update is now being formed into the core updates that maybe we'll start to see more people coming out of that full site-wide penalty. I think that they're trying to redefine helpful content. Hopefully, this doesn't mean that Reddit just rules the whole internet. They just did sign that deal with Reddit of $60 million, so you're going to assume that there is going to be more Reddit information coming out of it. I think the biggest thing out of all this is that they're really going after AI content. And one of the things with the AI content is that you've got to really understand that it's not generated content which is been also had input from a human. What I think they're really going to be targeting is like literally I type in a sentence, write me a blog of blah on shit, and then someone, the AI actually writes that whole blog. I think when that happens, I think they're going to penalize that. And there is a lot of publishers who are producing hundreds of thousands of pages. It's not really useful content. It's not useful for the user. And Google's going to penalize that, which I actually think they've already been doing for the last 6 months. The amount of sites I've seen where they've literally gone up, they hit 100,000 in organic traffic a month, and then they've just eaten shit within like 2 months. Max I've seen is like maybe 3 months they survive, and then they just plummet back down to earth. And they normally drop lower than when they're high or where they started before they're high, right? So it's not like you're going up and then you come down only a little bit. You're actually going lower than where you actually started, which I think is not a good thing. I do think that the other thing to keep in mind is really around the AI. So I should have put this up a little bit earlier, but really around here, it's like how much of they're going to be able to determine the difference between what is bulk generated and what is actually produced by a decent team with an editorial department. So I think keep that in mind as well. They're saying that if you're just scraping all this stuff and then you're putting out content on bulk and just trying to manipulate getting traffic, that they're going to penalize you. I'm yet to see how far they'll go with that. And we'll see that over the next few weeks and months, of course. The other thing I want to talk about just really quickly as well is really just around putting shitty content onto third-party sites and trying to rank it for affiliate purposes. Look, this has been going on for too long, right? I actually think it's sad that Google's taken this long to actually finally get to this. I do really think that it's not a good use. The example they use, a medical site hosting a third-party page about best casinos, right? Like, it's pure spam, right? I don't think that it's going to hurt everyone. I think it's really going to hurt those affiliates that are really targeting that. That's a whole methodology. They're not building brands. They're not building anything behind it. They're just literally building an actual page on someone else's website. There's no author. There's no facts behind it. It's literally just manipulating the authority of that site. So I do think those things, I actually think both of those things are good things. And I don't think it changes from what they've already been starting to penalize over the last few months. Like, I've seen large news sites who have really eaten shit from producing all this content. I'm actually, the site to really watch, in my opinion, is actually Forbes. Forbes has their advisory sub-folder that they run. I'm actually going to be watching that, and the team and I are watching that one really carefully because I want to see how that's impacted, because I feel like a lot of their pages are built 100% for search. So, for me, they technically, if you look at this kind of concept, like, and even some of the other things they've said about building pages and their definition of doorway pages for many years, it's like the whole of what Forbes does, right? So I'm curious to see if they get hit. My biggest theory about this update is they're going to go back to where they did before the last core update. And I feel like they do this cycle. And what I mean by this cycle is that they say, oh, we need more high authority sites to rank higher. And then they're like, no, these authority sites are not answering the question, so we need to give more diversity. And then they do another core update. Like, this is literally what has been going on for the last 2 or 3 years. If we work on that logic, this cycle means that we're going to be falling into more high authority sites benefiting from this update. I actually hope, and I think where they're getting to is it's actually legitimate businesses will benefit the most from this update. And that is because some of the internal research that we've been doing is that when someone has growth in their actual brand search term, we're seeing their whole site move up. Now, that's a really easy metric for Google to kind of follow. So I think that that's something that they can measure, they can scale that. I think what we've seen over the last few months, especially with everything that's been going on around, in my opinion, around the concept of EAT and how really a lot of it's just total bullshit. And the reason for that is because they openly admitted that they can't actually understand authors or who is behind an author. So if they can't understand the mechanics behind an author, how can they really go that deep on most concepts from EAT? You'll never hear any of the, fan club of Google talking about EAT is maybe not a thing, right? But I do think that's something we need to keep in the back of our minds as well. What I would suggest to everyone is don't make any major changes. You're going to see ups and downs. Like core updates, they usually go through phases, usually have an up or down, and then there might be a correction. So don't freak out if you see those ups and downs. Really try and hold the course. What we're going to be doing internally is that we're going to be running quite a few experiments on the sites that we have access to, and I'll be giving updates as we get new findings from the team. I'm excited by this update because I think it's actually a lot of updates in one. So I think it's going to be a really interesting outcome. I think it's going to change some things. But just remember, generative AI search was meant to be here 12 months ago and we still haven't seen shit. So maybe it's all hype and we're not going to see anything. But, stay the course. And look, we'll update you guys as we go through. But I'm really looking forward to this update and seeing what comes out. But happy rankings team. I hope you have fun over the next few months and drop us a line if you have any questions. And thanks.